very personal way, and you're going to see it. And this man there, his picture on the wall, Martin Luther King, continues to talk about it in the 1960s. So that hatred persisted, especially in the South, but not only in the South, in many places in the United States for a long time, and perhaps still persists today. So why do we read about it? Why do we learn about it? We read about it, we learn about it so that we can stamp it out when we see it. But we can't stamp something out if we don't recognize it. Okay, so that's what we learn. Now, you're going to learn about radical Republicans, and it wasn't that they were radical, like we use the word today. You're rad. It wasn't that they were radical. It just meant that these Republicans had taken a stance, a position against slavery, and they were not going to kind of bend over. This is the way it is. We're going to end slavery. We're going to help African Americans. And you Southerners, you fought me. My son may have died in that war because of you. You're going to suffer. Okay? Were they totally right? No. They weren't totally right, because whenever you're an extremist on one side or the other, you may not be totally right. Today, the radical Republicans probably could be very similar to in the Republican Party what they call the Tea Party. And we'll talk about it later in the year with regards to the similarities, radical Republicans. And you're going to hear about the changing of the Constitution, and that is very important. Let me try to give you a constitutional lesson very quickly. You're going to learn more about it next year in civics, and hopefully you will enjoy it when you go into it a lot more. Some people like civics a lot more than they do history. Ask my 8th graders. But there were 3 major changes to the Constitution of the United States. Why do you change the Constitution? All right, let me give you something that you might understand. Ms. Hastings is talking a great deal about coding. Okay? Coding is programming something, and they're coding little robots to do certain things. Okay? Coding is the basic program. When you go to a program on the internet, or when you access a program on your iPad, you don't do coding. You just do whatever the coding prepares. When you open a Word document, you don't have to code, okay, you go into the dictionary and then you search for these words. That's coding. What you do is you follow the instructions that the program has, that the coder has put in to use the program. The Constitution is coding. It's the underlying instructions on how the United States works. Regular laws passed by Congress are not constitutional. They're not coding. Regular laws dictate and tell you how you can best follow the Constitution. Okay? So here we have 3 major changes to the Constitution, to the coding of the United States. The first one is the 13th Amendment. The 13th Amendment is the amendment that actually freed all slaves. Let me say that loud and clear. The 13th Amendment frees all slaves forever. Okay? There can't be a law passed that says slavery is back again, because the Constitution, the coding of the United States has changed. No more slavery, 13th Amendment. Okay. 14th Amendment. You may remember that in the last section, there was a difference of opinion between the abolitionists. Some said, once you get freedom, that's it. Remember that? Remember that one said, freedom, that's it. My job is done. I'm closing up my newspaper. And another one said, no. Wait right here. You, the African American, the newly freed person, cannot be free until they have the right to vote. But not everybody can have the right to vote. In the United States, who votes? I'll give you an example. Adults, that's a good one, but there's a difference too. What happened to Minerva this week?
Oh, she became a citizen.
Exactly. Before she was a citizen, could she vote?
No.
No. Now that she's a citizen, can she vote?
Yes.
Only citizens can vote. African Americans were free, but they weren't citizens under the 13th Amendment. So in order for them to vote, they have to become citizens. And how do they become citizens? By changing again the coding in the Constitution. And the 14th Amendment, 14, basically says, if you're born in the United States, you are a citizen of the United States. Before that, that didn't exist. You guys that were born here, by virtue of your mother dropping you inside the United States, you are citizens. Just by that. You didn't have to do anything else. Your mother dropped you here, you're a citizen. Okay. Now, that's interesting because before the 14th Amendment, that wasn't true. If you were born in the United States, you weren't necessarily a citizen. So now, African Americans, because they were born here through the 14th Amendment, are now citizens. They're free citizens. Now they need one more thing. They need the right to vote. And that's what the 15th Amendment is about. 13 free, 14 citizen, 15 right to vote. So now you've got African Americans that have been, previous to the 14th Amendment, technically property. Now they're free, now they're citizens, now they can vote. To a certain extent, they have legal equality. Let me say that again. They have legal equality. Do they have social equality? And the answer is no. Because to receive social equality, people must see you as equal. And that's a much more difficult thing. Why? Because people seeing somebody as equal is like telling somebody who they have to like. And you know that I try to do that a lot, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. I do. But by the fact that I tell you, does that mean that you automatically like them? No, because liking is something that happens inside of you. Judging somebody as equal to you is like liking somebody. It's something that happens inside. So the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendment gave African Americans legal equality, but it did not automatically give them equality with everybody else. The Southerners were still not seeing them as equal. Okay? And that's going to take a very long period of time and a lot of struggle that we know about through the civil rights movement. And to a certain extent, that struggle is still going on today if you look at what's happening in St. Louis. In St. Louis, African Americans are really demonstrating because they feel that the police do not look at them as equal because they've been shooting and they've been treating African Americans differently, in their opinion, than they treat white Americans. Recently, some guy was shot, and they think that that was wrong. So the conflict about equality is still going on today, and we are in the 21st century, and the Civil War happened in the 19th century. So we went through a portion of the 19th century, the 20th century, and we're in the 21st century, and there is still an issue with equality. Have we come a long way?
Yeah.
Our president is African American. So could that have happened in 1865? Absolutely not. So have we gone a long way? Yes. Have we arrived? No, we have not arrived. It's a process that your generation hopefully will be able to get us through that process and into, you know, the dream, which is one day my 4 little children will be judged by the content of their character rather than the color of their skin. You remember that from the I Have a Dream speech? It's one of my favorite lines. Okay? We're still not judged, you and I are still not judged by the content of our character. We're not African Americans. But you're Hispanic, right? And even though today you may not experience discrimination because you live basically in a Hispanic colony. The majority of people in Miami, in South Florida, speak Spanish. So we live in a Hispanic colony. But if you went out to a non-Hispanic colony where you were the only Hispanic, you begin to realize that people don't necessarily see you as an equal person. Okay? Why? Because discrimination has to do with knowledge. You fear what you don't know. You feel that what you don't know has got to be inferior to you. Okay? So we're in that process that the time immediately after the Civil War presented to us. Okay, so you're going to see that fight going back and forth, and ultimately how Congress ultimately resolved it. And the sad truth about it is that who was, in my opinion, and this is an opinion thing, this is not a right and wrong. In my opinion, who was right were the radical Republicans. Why? Because they were trying to strive to make African Americans as equal as possible, as quickly as possible. But at the very end of Reconstruction, they make a political deal. And in that political deal that will be talked about in the next section, in that political deal, the Northerners decided, okay, Reconstruction's over. And they left. Think about it. Think about it. All of a sudden, you're protecting this group of people from the environment of people that hate them. And then you say, oh, they're not going to be that bad to you, and you turn your back and you leave. What happens? When they declared Reconstruction done, African Americans went through a period of really bad behavior from the southern people. They were lynched, hung from trees, they were mistreated, they were cheated, they were, you name it. So the real question is, why did the Northerners make the deal? The Northerners made the deal because they wanted to have their candidate elected president, and the only way that they could was to kind of abandon the African Americans. So they were bought off. They were, in essence, bribed. Not a good thing. Doesn't make us look at what happened in a very good way, but it's the truth. And sometimes the truth needs to be told, okay, for us to understand. All right. With that in mind,